Thank you all for coming out this evening. I greatly appreciate it. My name is Joseph Gaccio. I am the city manager for Ferndale. I greatly appreciate all of the volunteer efforts and commitments. Community cannot survive without volunteers, and the government of the last year throughout the pandemic cannot survive nor thrive without its appointed officials and its elected officials who guide us in all of our actions. So thank you greatly for everything that you do. I'm proud to introduce Mayor Melanie Piana, who is here to give us the state of our city this evening. So welcome, Mayor Piana, and thank you again.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out in the rain, the continual rain. When I graduated college, I worked in a Mexican restaurant. Sometimes I opened it in the morning, and I would be the only person there. I don't know if you've ever been the first person on the job. There's something special about it. A room, hours earlier, was packed with boisterous patrons. In my case, they were drinking margaritas. That room now sits solemnly, but the energy of the night before still hangs in the air. You can almost see it in the rays of the early morning sun and the tequila haze. In a way, this memory and experience reminds me of Ferndale. We were packed last February 2020, and in March, many things are closed for the night. But now it's morning, the coffee's on, the energy's in the air, employees are coming back, maybe a little groggy, perhaps, but ready to get to work. And there are customers ready to eat. Hey, Ferndale, I'm your mayor, and I'm here to talk to you about us. Ferndale is a town of dreamers and doers, a town with big ideas and an even bigger heart. We are a town of passionate people, and we don't always agree for sure, but we all want the same thing, a city that we can be proud of. Just like working in a restaurant, running a town takes a team to get the job done, and everyone involved is crucial to our shared success. And I don't need to tell you that last year and a half was a challenge, but I can tell you how proud I am of this community for stepping up together to get through it. And while we're always keeping an eye on the pandemic, and now the Delta variant and its continuing impact, it's also time to make progress a priority. And who drives a city's priorities? The people do. You do. Maybe it's with your vote, or in a public statement for city council. Perhaps it's volunteering for a board, or a task force, or even running for office. And when you speak, we listen. I listen. And we tackle these priorities with confidence because we know that's our community pushing us towards progress. And we are emerging from the tail end of this pandemic in a different world than we did in the beginning. I feel different. Maybe you do too. Perceptions about what is possible has changed. How we work has changed. I don't want to take off my Ugg boots and come to council, but I have to. And what we expect from each other has changed too. But Ferndale's priorities didn't change. If anything, the last year has made it only more apparent that we are heading in the right direction, however bumpy that road may be. And it's a challenge worth facing, because Ferndale's future is rooted in social equity, public health, partnerships, climate resilience, and human connection. And tonight, I'm here to talk about the state of our city, where we're headed, the people, the priorities, and the progress that helped us get us this far. And I'd like to start by acknowledging some of the people making it happen. And sometimes public service can be a really thankless job. If you read the community forums, you might think the city was run by Gozer the Destroyer and Stay Puft. It's not. Rather, it's run by an incredible team of people who work every day to make Ferndale the place we want it to be. People like our city manager, Joe Gaschow, and assistant city manager, Kyle Paulette, who lead our talented city administration team. They are the reason we have community-driven strategic priorities and can consistently deliver on them. Thank you to every city employee for showing up, being intentional, and problem solving for the community. I know you are exhausted, I see you, but your hard work and dedication can be seen across our great little city. I so appreciate all of you for sharing your unique talents with all of us. I am proud to be on Team Ferndale, and it's an honor to stand before you and talk about the progress the city has made. And first, I will start with public health. Last year, our Department of Public Works stepped up to lead the way on the lead service line replacement program. By council request, their replacement program was more aggressive than every other community around us. And by doing so, council minimized the spike increases in water rates and put public health first. And thank you to City Council for approving a $10 million loan to do more than the Eagle's 7% replacement standard. This year, we will replace 13%, and with more planned for next year. And what's next for this program is watching the American Recovery Plan infrastructure dollars that prioritize lead line replacement nationally. And these federal funds may help us reduce the replacement schedule from 20 years to maybe just a few. I remain hopeful, and I'm watching this policy closely going forward. And let's take a minute to acknowledge Public Works and the fire department for the tenacity they've shown in dealing with our recent storms, the never-ending storm. We've seen an increase in these kinds of fierce weather events. The ones we used to call 100-year floods, except they're happening more regularly, almost daily, because of changing weather patterns. And one of the reasons I'm such a champion for climate resiliency. And as we work to solve climate change locally, these storms continue to increase in both number and intensity, and that's why a tough, talented response team is so critical. So even the quick-moving storm we had a week and a half ago that caused power outages, particularly in my neighborhood, and spot flooding, our fire department received 20 calls for down power lines and multiple requests for elevator rescues, fire alarms, and a structural fire. They were busy. And as a result, we saw a spike in calls for medical emergencies. The fire department has a full-service medical response unit with trained paramedics. So when you call 911 for a medical emergency in Ferndale, chances are one of our paramedics will come to assist you. And then there were the heavy rains of June 25th and 26th, the ones that caused so much flooding in Wayne County. Honestly, I feel Ferndale got lucky, really. Those rain clouds didn't hover over us like they did in 2014. And I say we are in a game of weather roulette. We never know what's going to happen. Northwest Ferndale, including the Housing Commission apartment building on Withington, found themselves without power for an extended period during some of the worst heat of the season. The fire department jumped into action to provide wellness checks on the building's most vulnerable residents, senior citizens, those with medical concerns, and residents on oxygen. They quickly helped transport those in need to a city building with air conditioning and power for medical supplies. Thanks to these men and women who do this critical work and the leader who oversees it, Chief Teresa Robinson. In January, she came to Ferndale and has shown herself to be a tremendous asset to the fire department and city. I'm also very proud we hired our first female fire chief, continuing to diversify our municipal workforce. And she's a redhead, so. So moving on to Parks and Rec. We learned how critical parks are to elevating public health. Access to recreational space nurtures strong neighborhoods and healthy kids. And our Parks and Rec staff saved the Geary Wanda Park improvement projects. I'll have to say it was one of the hardest votes, the first votes of the pandemic, where we had to ask to delay approving this project. And we asked staff to reduce scope and rebid the project. But now the parks are under construction with new ADA accessible walking paths, play equipment, new pavilion, and improved landscaping. And I hope to make these projects whole again with some ARP funds expected, but that's going to be a discussion with council when we dive into the $1.9 million that we're expected to receive. And then the final project from the $2 million Parks Bond is the splash pad. The pandemic also impacted its progress. We will have bids in late fall for construction to start in early spring of 2022, and hopefully ready for some summertime fun. And what does this all mean? We know that people will come when the city invests in our parks with new activities and improvements. The skate park is a prime example of how this new amenity is getting kids out of the house. A few weeks ago, I was riding my bike home, and my neighbor across the street, Donna, was holding the hands of her granddaughters as they practiced getting on their new skateboard. These young girls saw other children skateboarding in the park and wanted to learn and do the same. That's the influence of a park investment. And thank you, Parks Director Lorena Wheeler and the Parks and Rec team for your excellent work. All right, I think you all know a critical project for me as mayor and council has been improving conditions at the 8 Mile Woodward intersection. The public health of the individuals residing at the underpass is everyone's concern, and the public health conditions for Ferndale and Detroit residents that live near the intersection. I want to thank Detroit Councilman Roy McAllister, Mayor Duggan's office, the 8 Mile Boulevard Association, Oakland County, and MDOT for partnering with Ferndale to share their homeless expertise, their financial resources, and the partnership to identify human-centered solutions that assist the homeless. Through this partnership, the City of Detroit funded case management support with a local nonprofit that engaged with the individuals at the bridge to identify their barriers from getting employment, drug and mental health treatments, and permanent housing. I also thank Councilman McAllister for securing an additional $25,000 contribution from TCF Bank for this project. And I also want to give a special thank you to our Community and Economic Development Director, Jordan Twardy, for spearheading this project and making it possible. His time as the former executive director at 8 Mile Boulevard Association provided the Ferndale team the depth and breadth needed to steer a partnership with Detroit and all of the stakeholders. As a good friend of mine said, it was the right person in the right seat. And thank you for DPW for continual cleaning maintenance at the intersection. They had a tough job. And so what's next is construction starting in September to install the mural underneath the overpass and improve lighting. The project design and installation team are the people of Detroit, Noah Stevens, and mural artist Pat Perry, who is also a Detroiter. They developed concepts that connect both Ferndale and Detroit together through roller skating. I now want to acknowledge some new faces you may have seen in our police department, including Police Chief Emmy and Captain Spellman. Our PD has been a leader in police reforms, and I want to talk about our department's journey and what is next. How has the Ferndale Police Department changed? How is it a different department than it was 5 years ago, or even 1 year ago? In some ways, it hasn't changed. It isn't different. We have a department of men and women with a shared mission of protecting and safeguarding our community. When we call them or dial 911, they show up quickly, ready to help, investigate, and do whatever is necessary to keep our downtown, neighborhoods, parks, and community spaces safe. What has changed is the formalization of this mission. The police department has spent the past 5 years looking within, assessing, enacting changes, formalizing policies, and spearheading new programs with the goal of strategic, systematic, and continual growth, so that they can serve as guardians and protectors, not warriors, so that they can find and eradicate any institutional biases, so they can train, learn, and practice, going through simulation after simulation to ensure that if the worst situation happens, they're 100% prepared to provide skillful and impartial policing to all. And so that they can be a police department by and for this community, the whole community. Following the tragic murder of George Floyd last May by a member of the Minneapolis Police Department, citizens across the nation protested and called for stricter use of force policies. When I and every city council member was inevitably asked about the Ferndale Police Department's use of force, I was proud to share that all 8 of the policies recommended by the 8 Can't Wait campaign had already been implemented. In fact, the department has making these head-of-the-curve changes since 2016. And when I say changes, I want to clarify. In my time with our city, our police department has always supported these ideals. Chokeholds, shooting at moving vehicles, these were not our department's practices. By taking the extra step to formalize these policies and educate their officers, they make a clear statement to the community that what happened in Minneapolis will not happen here. In the wake of last summer, we also heard a lot about defunding the police. At its core, the message was less a judgment of police agencies and their work, and more a plea to create better and more strategic services for cases that don't require enforcement, such as mental health crisis, and I argue, better national health care. And with that in mind, the Ferndale Police Department formed a partnership with Common Ground, Oakland County's leading crisis service agency. The coalition, made possible by a grant, will put Common Ground in the position to help Ferndale first responders recognize opportunities for crisis management support and connect in-need individuals and families with available programs and services. Common Ground will follow up with referrals and provide a continuity of care, an aspect currently missing from many mental health service calls. And if you're still unsure about our intentions and mission, that's okay. The trust between communities and the police departments that serve them has been shaken following last year's events, and the history of racism is a long journey of healing. But you can engage in Ferndale by the following ways. I encourage you to attend a street corner roundtable event with our police department or host one in front of your house, like residents Dale and Karen Villaroro. I will never get your name right. They're my friends and I can't pronounce their name. They hosted an event in their front yard last year during the pandemic. And I invite residents to attend our Citizens Police Academy that runs every October. I think we had over 20 residents participate last year during the pandemic. And then finally, I encourage you to review the new Bridge to Data Transparency Dashboard, which was created by Oakland County to start innovating and sort of coalescing the data between the police departments and making it same. Believe it or not, every police department categorizes their data differently. All right, so let's talk about 2 other approaches to social equity. Right now, I call it the Planning Trifecta, or Planning Force, like Space Force, but for your neighborhood, because describing the following, we are updating the Master Land Use Plan, the Parks and Recreation Plan, and developing our first ever Climate Action Plan concurrently. It's a mouthful. And if you have any creative ideas what to call this Planning Force Trifecta, please share with staff and me because all project names are on the table for consideration. So new this year is a strong focus on planning for equity. To understand what this means is the American Planning Association's definition of equity, and I'm a professional member of this organization. The foundation of the planning profession is to create better communities, which means clean air, clean water, decent housing, open space and recreation, safe neighborhoods, transportation options, access to employment opportunities, and good schools in every neighborhood. This is our focus in Ferndale. It's a banner year if you want to be engaged in your community to help set the city's direction for the next 5 years. And for the next 12 months, surveys, focus group, and community engagement meetings, and discussion at all the relevant boards and commissions will review all of these plans underway. So each of you can uplift and give voice to what equitable outcomes we need for Ferndale going forward. Another major priority for me is is the opportunity to make safety improvements on Woodward Avenue, a project steeped in social equity. You may have heard me talk about this opportunity as the NASA reentry moment, meaning we have to hit the reentry window precisely right or we will burn up, meaning the project won't happen. You won't believe I found this image on NASA's satellite database. Did you know there really was an MDOT sphere layer to our atmosphere? Basically, this project is a challenge. And our re-entry window opens next year when MDOT is repaving Woodward and a once-in-a-decade generational opportunity to implement safety improvements on Woodward and improve access to our existing transit. And it's something I've been fighting for over 15 years for our city and the region. For years, residents have told me what's not working well, how unsafe they feel walking on the sidewalks or crossing at the limited crosswalks we do have. And we won't be building new crosswalks under the short-term project here. It is aspirational for the community. And yesterday, on my walk home from meeting with some business owners, my body had a near miss from a distracted driver who screeched to halt in front of me as I crossed Woodward Avenue at Camborne. I was startled and I was scared. And I gave him the stink eye. She wouldn't look at me because she was looking at her phone. So we finally have a chance to implement solutions, and it's within our grasp. And frankly, I'm on pins and needles waiting to hear if Ferndale and Pleasant Ridge, who are our partners, are awarded all or some or none of the Transportation Alternatives Program grant to help pay for this transformational project for the region. This is not an easy thing to do, transform a corridor that the city doesn't own. It's technically difficult. I can tell you how time-consuming it is. And it's on the city to make its own case why change is possible. But I'm optimistic. We will be successful with Pleasant Ridge because I am tenacious and I won't give up. All right, so let's shift to our downtown and small business community, which is led by our community-led solid DDA team, Alina Stevens, the executive director, and Summer Reilly, our engagement manager. They are here to get some work done, and it shows. But first, I want to highlight the impact on small business support the DDA has provided our small businesses located within the DDA boundary and for small businesses located on Woodward Heights, Livernois, and Hilton. During the pandemic, they ignored the boundary in which they operate and made sure that all businesses that needed help, our small retailers, could have access to resources. So the DDA, City and Chamber, through their support and collaboration, helped our local businesses owners secure from the county and state $200,000 in funding assistance made available to reopen and recover from the pandemic. And about $1.7 million came from federal government support through the CARES funding. And I want to elevate and champion one recent grant award because the owner is being incredibly quiet and humble about it. The city had nothing to do with it. Go Comedy Improv Theater received $272,000 from the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant through the Small Business Administration. PJ applied on his own, and he found out 2 weeks ago. Congratulations to PJ for receiving this fantastic opportunity to help him reopen his business in September. He certainly is a top banana. So speaking of shuttered venues such as the Ringwald Theater, Magic Bag, and Grasshopper, they took the hardest hit in 2020 due to social distancing requirements. Ringwald has partnered with Affirmations, and they're right behind us and remains active in this new location and their new sort of black box theater. Check it out if you haven't already. And Go Comedy is currently scheduling shows and will be part of the patio zone, participate during show nights. And Magic Bag has a fully booked schedule. My friends, this is what recovery looks like. I also want to spot La Hoste, a small Black-owned business that has been in our downtown for years. When the pandemic hit, I'm unsure if co-owners Haith and Henry of La Hoste gave themselves a day of self-pity. Instead, they seized an opportunity to expand in the retail market to provide hair care products for people who wear wigs. They found a niche in their market, and their products are now featured in Walmart stores nationwide and regionally at Meijer. They use every square inch of their space on West 9 Mile for storage and order fulfillment right now and still find time to donate and give back to those in need. And we also have new businesses planning to open, and here are a few highlights. I wish I could mention you all. But Urban Rest opens a second location on West 9 Mile, and the city helped them secure $25,000 in a grant from the Michigan Economic Development Corporation to open up this new spot. And Walking Lightly, if you haven't been over there on Hilton, a woman-owned entrepreneur opened a store to help you reduce your use of plastics and focus on reusable products. I dropped $100 on my mom's birthday gift there last June, so I encourage you to check it out. And a grand opening for Good Day Selfie Museum is this Thursday, located on Woodward. And it was started by a young female local entrepreneur that attended Ferndale High School. So I hope you will check it out and go Instagram yourself or TikTok, whatever you got on your phone. And we are lucky to have a privately owned small business retail incubator. That's a really technical term for what I say the Rust Belt market, but that's what they are. Formerly Sorry Not Sorry, located in the Rust Belt market, is expanding in their own space on Woodward, next to Treat Dreams and Elaine B. Jewelry. And now they're going to be called Not Sorry Goods. And this is what I saw the potential of Rust Belt Market when they went in 10 years ago. I knew that they would generate retailers who would want to grow and be in their own space. And last night at our city council meeting, the DOT developers announced 3 new businesses opening in the new retail space on West Troy. A&B Bridal Shop, which is sort of a bespoke small bridal boutique store that attracts unique designers. They started in Denver. And we have Quick Chocolate, a family-owned business started in Belgium in 1949 and is being restarted by their great-grandson, who is a Dutch immigrant to the US. And My Salon Suite is a franchise that builds small salon spaces within a larger space and then rents them to licensed hairstylists, barbers, and others who provide beauty, health, and wellness. So they help entrepreneurs, micro-entrepreneurs get started. We welcome you all to Ferndale. Let me acknowledge here the hard work of Joy Wells, the executive director, who during the pandemic, with leadership from their board, rebranded as the South Oakland Area Regional Chamber, or SOAR, expanding their work into Oak Park, Hazel Park, and Royal Oak Township. Joy's leadership has been instrumental in supporting the city's business reopening and recovery efforts, and we've never had the strongest partner in the chamber until Joy arrived, so I really appreciate all of you and the board. Looking ahead at the possibilities for our downtown, the DDA Board of Directors and I sit on the board, are focused on all the spots that make things nicer and more enjoyable to hang out in Ferndale. We are finding new ways to bring arts and parks to the area, starting with the DOT project, and installation of unique pieces that also help people remember where they parked. And with the support of the DDA, that is a fantastic close image of the art. And with the support of the DDA and the Ferndale Arts Cultural Commission, we are hosting the Detroit Institute of Arts Inside Out 21 program for the second time. And anybody who knows anything about the art heist of the stolen art in the pop-up grassy knoll, put your Nancy Drew sensibilities on and help the city figure out who stole our art. We need it back. And excellent cues. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It is a caper. And this past Saturday, as I was driving by, I saw nearly a dozen kids playing chess in Schiffer Park. And I was beyond ecstatic to see children hanging out in our upgraded public space because it wasn't a great place to be. It was mostly cement. Who wants that? And when we make strategic investments in reimagining a more kid-friendly and people-oriented space, we get more people exploring and hanging out in downtown. And more people in our downtown help nurture a thriving business district. So thank you, DDA Board of Directors, all who are downtown business owners who are giving their precious time to the city, especially during the pandemic. And it's my goal that people enjoy our parks in new ways long after I'm done being mayor. But for that to happen, we need to have a serious conversation about climate resiliency. Specifically, our big, hairy, audacious goal to become a carbon neutral city. And I'm proud to be selected as one of the first 25 mayors for ICLEI, which is the local government sustainability organization. They're international, but also have a US focus. And I'm part of 150 US leaders to support the United Nations Race to Zero initiative on climate change. It's a mouthful too. But I'm also proud of our city council for becoming one of the smallest cities nationally to take on this lofty goal, to reduce our carbon footprint to solve climate change. Ferndale and Royal Oak are the only 2 cities in Oakland County that I know of and possibly the Tri-County region to set carbon neutral goals with science-based targets. Corporations are leading the way in looking at how to reduce their carbon footprint, but cities are really far behind. But Ferndale is leading the way, though we can't achieve our science-based targets on our own. More cities across our region need to join us, help us navigate this together, and leverage one another's ideas and resources. And I will be using my voice as mayor to encourage other elected officials to learn more and join Race to Zero or even set a carbon neutral goal. It is far less expensive to invest in infrastructure adaptation than pay for recovery efforts. We're seeing that in flooding all over right now. And don't get me wrong, upgrading our infrastructure is costly. But still, over a 20-30 year period, we will save money by becoming more resilient to the extreme weather patterns impacting our region. And our community and city council will be making challenging spending decisions next year after the Climate Action Plan indicates priority policies and projects. It won't be status quo with equity and carbon reduction as guiding our values. And one example is our DPW yard buildings. We know these old buildings are one of our highest carbon outputs. The buildings are energy inefficient, and they are not modern facilities for a 21st century DPW. And what you see here on the right, we have an equity issue because back in the day, someone thought it was okay to build a hallway in our DPW offices over a sewer drain that our employees must cross over every day on their way to the break room. It smells like poop. Yes, I just said poop. So that's what we're dealing with. We can't ignore that going forward anymore. So achieving equitable outcomes is not only a community-wide goal, but also an organizational goal for the city administration to make Ferndale's work environment safer and more modern. And finally, you may not have heard much about the Mayor's Business Council, which I have kept going after Mayor Coulter, and it's comprised of our largest and medium-sized manufacturer business owners in this city. We only met in person once, February of 2020, and then every time thereafter was by Zoom, and we asked to get feedback on our affordable housing plan. We asked them if access to housing impacts their ability to hire and retain talent. We got feedback on Ferndale Moves and the Woodward Improvement Project. We asked if any of their employees have problems getting to work because they are unable to afford a car or want to live a car-free lifestyle. And after hearing about Ferndale's carbon reduction goals, it's got them really excited, and greenhouse gas inventory, these MBC owners wanted to prioritize sustainability and the circular economy. And if you haven't heard this term, it is really emerging in the corporate world, which really is businesses designing and removing waste from their production processes. So if anybody has seen ad nauseum on your Facebook ads about the little slips of paper that go into your washer, I don't remember the name of them. That's all I get on my Facebook ads feed. But they're little slips of paper, and it removes plastic and water because laundry detergent uses a lot of plastic and a lot of water. So these companies are removing that out of their production cycle and figuring out how to have a lesser impact on our environment. So I will be continuing convening our business leaders to have conversations how our businesses can work for the environment and save money. Everything I highlight tonight has been about people connecting, having conversations, listening, hearing, learning, and never stop being about people. That after 15 intense months of mostly online interaction, it's time to plug back in to humanity. We are all far more alike than we are different, but you wouldn't believe so based on the polarization happening in this country, or maybe what you read on Facebook. Now more than ever, we need to humanize people. We need to humanize each other. As mayor, I have prioritized taking hour walks or meeting up for coffee with residents. I come to your house to start the trek, and folks take me on their regular walking route in their neighborhood. People have shared with me their family challenges, their health issues, their kids' struggle with online during the pandemic, their next vacation, and their hopes and dreams about Ferndale. And these conversations are my favorite to hear because what they love about Ferndale or the ideas on making our community stronger are in line with our community priorities. We're not that different. Thank you to all of the volunteers who help make Ferndale the place that it is. Whether you sit on boards and commissions, or you're like Greg, a resident that lives along Geary Park who spends his own time picking up trash and looking out for the kids playing in the park. I met him on one of my walks. Being plugged into the community can happen in so many ways, and I invite you to explore what is the best path for you. And I want to extend my sincere gratitude to Ferndale City Council, Mayor Pro Tem Leeks May, Councilwoman Kat Bruner-James, Councilwoman Laura Mikulski, and Councilman Greg Pollico over in the corner. Our community values, strategic priorities, and vision going forward are steered by our organizational values of integrity, inclusiveness, innovation, and inspired. This is our shared leadership. And all of this is possible because of their engaging spirit and tireless effort. Thank you, all of you, for being on this journey with me, with us, the community. And thank you for everything you give to this city. And thank you to your family members too. I know they give up their time to support you and maybe listen to you complain and vent and share in the joy of accomplishments you make while you serve as a public servant. And I also wanted to acknowledge other elected leaders in the room who are joining tonight, and that is County Commissioner Charlie Cavell in the back. And we also have James Jackson, the Southeast Michigan Regional Director from Senator Gary Peters' office. Thank you for coming tonight. I really appreciate that. And then did anybody else sneak in while we started? I'm totally blanking on your last name, Mike. Thank you. This is what happens, put on the spot. I go starry-eyed and blank. But Mike McFall and I actually went on a walk through Ferndale and Hazel Park, through our parks, because I have a vision of joining our park system in some way. And I really appreciate you being here, Mike McFall from Hazel Park. He's on council there. And we have Stephanie Maroki from Congressman Levin's office. Thank you for coming and your support today. And finally, well, not finally, two more thank yous. I also want to thank my husband, Jim Piana, who every day makes me laugh during stressful times, supports me, and loves me. You uplift me and keep my ego in check when you add cats to my photos on Facebook. And everyone, please wish him happy birthday. It's tomorrow. Amazingly, he turns 21 again. Awesome. And thank you to Affirmations for hosting our event this evening, and to Vibe Credit Union for sponsoring this event. Your partnership helps make things happen here. And I finally have a call to action. I invite you to join me in supporting Ferndale's vision of becoming a carbon neutral, more accessible, and welcoming place to be yourself. Attend an engagement meeting with the Master Land Use Plan, the Parks and Recs Plan, and the Climate Action Plan, the Planning Trifecta. It's here. Let your voice be heard, because we need you, because this is about us. Thank you for joining me tonight. I am grateful for your participation and support.